Claude Dispatch. The Claude team, Anthropic, absolutely killing it the last couple of weeks, shipping more features, getting closer to having a grown-up version of OpenClaw, a version pretty much anyone can use and a lot safer. Apologies to those who love OpenClaw. I think it's fantastic too, but it is not for everybody. What we're seeing from the Claude team is something that everyone else can use, and they can use it safely and they can use it without having to spend hours and hours on setup. Very exciting. I'm going to be talking about Claude Dispatch shortly. Before that though, I wanted to talk about a piece of research that Anthropic have put out. It's going to be a very Anthropic heavy session. They're just doing a lot of good stuff at the moment about how people are actually using artificial intelligence. So they used their Anthropic or their Claude researcher, I think it's called, to query and ask people how they're using AI and what they want AI to do for them in their life. It's a very interesting piece of research, especially the people who are anti-AI represented inside of this research. I will put the full thing in the newsletter. If you are not signed up, it's aiwithkyle.com. I just wanted to run through a few of the kind of headline figures here. This is 81,000 respondents, and they have lots of stories. You can read through their individual stories. Obviously, there are 81,000 of them, so you don't really want to be doing that. For the first time, AI has enabled us to collect rich, open-ended interviews at extraordinary scale. We heard from people across 159 countries in 70 languages. We believe this is the largest and most multilingual qualitative study ever conducted. They've used a tool called their AI Interviewer. We should be able to pull it up. And you can use this too. And it will conduct interviews. So it's better than just a survey. It's not just a survey that you send out to people. It is an AI interview process that you can send to your customers. You can send to people you want to get opinions from, and Claude will run the interview for you. Claude.ai/interviewer. That did not work. Anyway, I will find that and put that in the newsletter. They have used their own tool, Claude Interviewer, in this research and pulled together 81,000 interviews. It's a qualitative interview. It will ask questions and then it will adjust the next questions that it asks based on the respondents' answers. So a very cool method. And off the back of this, they have put together stories. You can read the individual ones, like Claude put the historical pieces together, leading to my proper diagnosis after being misdiagnosed for over 9 years. That's a wild one to start with, considering the complications and the difficulty around using AI in medicine. You do you, Anthropic. I live hand to mouth, zero savings. If I use AI smarter, it may help me craft solutions to that cycle. It still depends on me. This is an entrepreneur in Nigeria. Fully agree with you. But it's also costing people and raising alarm. So I got laid off my job in May because my company wanted to replace me using an AI system. This is a technical support specialist in the US. So they have the negatives of AI as well. So they've asked 81,000 people. I would wonder who they're asking, because if they're asking Claude users, that is a very specific percentage of Earth, because people who use Claude tend to be more technical, more comfortable with AI technology. I haven't actually looked through the exact research, but we can look at that in a moment. But what I wanted to share, here we go. Over 1 week in December, we invited everyone with a Claude account to sit down with Anthropic Interviewer. That's going to skew the data a lot. These are people who have Claude. A version of Claude prompted to conduct a conversational interviewer and tell us how they view AI. 80,508 people across 159 countries in 70 languages took the interview. We believe this is the largest, most multilingual qualitative study ever conducted. Yep, a lot of people. Remember, these are Claude account owners. That puts a spin on this. Still very useful though. So you can see all the quotes in this system here where you can choose. Let's have a look at the UK, for example. Oh, I'm not sure if I can do Western Europe. Western Europe and focusing on entrepreneurship, for example. Oh, I can't do that. Okay, I can do entrepreneurship. So I wanted to be an entrepreneur my entire life. In 2023, I let an AI chatbot teach me how to code. By mid-2024, I had a working prototype and real users. You can do that a lot quicker now. It doesn't take a year anymore. I now own an independent app studio with 4 apps, all making money. I graduated with a liberal arts degree. Woo! Humanities, and everyone laughed. Entrepreneur from Canada. You can go through and read these little stories. If you are building a business, this stuff's really useful. You can use this to find problems. You can use this to find what people are excited about, and you can use that to shape your business. Here's another entrepreneur in the UK. I was a chef last year, never coded a thing in my life. Yet when Claude looked at what I'd built, it thought I was a team of professionals. This feels like my hands just got multiplied or extended. When my AI partner's vision aligns with mine, I'm willing to give it more and more responsibility. You can read through all 80,000 of these quotes here. What I wanted to look at, though, were the meta-analysis, so the larger picture. Those stories are great, but what are the patterns? What does it show? So first up, what people want from AI. These are Claude users. These are not ChatGPT users, but they're using Claude AI. So there's going to be a slant here. Professional excellence is the highest category here. So 18.8% of them identified professional excellence, or the AI identified them as in that bucket. Improving effectiveness and leaning into more meaningful work by having AI handle routine tasks so they can focus on higher value strategic work, complex problem solving, and professional mastery. An amazing use of AI. This is the use of AI that I push for. Anyone who's been following me for a while knows that I don't really talk about AI imagery or AI video, AI and music. I don't think it should be used as much in creative fields, but I think it should be used here for professional excellence. It should be used for entrepreneurship. It should be used to take the boring, terrible parts of our jobs away from us so we can focus on higher level thinking. It looks like 18.8% agree on that. Personal transformation follows up, 13.7%, achieving personal growth, emotional well-being, or life transformation with AI as a guide, coach, or support. So specifically, it doesn't use the word therapy here. Oh no, here we go. I'm wrong. E.g., self-understanding, behavior change, therapeutic support, companionship, improvements in physical or mental health. So companionship is here too. This could include romantic relationships. So that is the second highest here. We know from the Open Router study, a meta-analysis of tokens that were flowing through their system, and companionship and role-playing was about 40% of usage. So we know that this is a large part of using AI, and this Claude study is supporting this as well. This is interesting because after the 4.0 debacle, so 4.0 was removed, 4.0 was the de facto ChatGPT model for companionship and for romance as well. They got rid of that in the application, and lots of the 4.0 people were looking for a different place to go. And from what I've heard from them, 5.1 in ChatGPT was very good, but Claude wasn't really so good at companionship or relationship stuff. It's interesting to see it's 13.7% here. That does include, though, using AI as a guide, coach, support. So the waters are fairly muddy here. Entrepreneurship, so my focus down here is 8.7%, which is not a large bucket, but that's nearly 10% of all our users want to use or are using AI for entrepreneurship. That is a much higher percentage than the entrepreneurial drive that you'll see out in public. Normally that's 8%, is much higher. Build, launch, and scale businesses with AI as a force multiplier. So product development, business automation, solopreneurship. This is my focus here. So I'm glad to see that it shows up on the board. Link Paris Paloma to this. I don't know who Paris Paloma is. She's on an anti-AI crusade. Lots of people are. And they have good reasons to as well. There are elements of generative AI that are incredibly problematic. Actually, we can come down to the second part. Are people getting what they want? When asked if AI had ever taken a step towards their stated vision, 81% of people said yes. 19% of people said no. So AI has not delivered. So Anthropic have been brave enough to put this into the study and to highlight it and say, hey, for some people, this isn't working. So 19% here, AI fell short of expectations, e.g. inaccurate or unreliable outputs, or isn't yet capable of being used for what they envision. I wanted to highlight this because this is a common complaint I see. AI should be cleaning windows and emptying the dishwasher so I can paint and write poetry. Right now, it's exactly the other way around. A lot of people thought that AI would be doing the menial work, taking on those tasks. But instead, what we're seeing is generative AI, large language models, absolutely demolishing white collar work and creative work. Years ago was that it's going to do all this blue collar work. It's going to do the hard drudgery work. It's going to empty our dishwasher and clean our windows and do all that stuff so I can focus on being a writer. And then instead, AI came along and it did the writing work. It did the poetry. It's doing the thinking work. So it's coming from a different vector than people expected. Robotics has not had its ChatGPT moment. Robotics is still a little behind in terms of technology. AI is being put into robotics, and that's helping robotics go faster. But there is still a physical manufacturing process. You need to be able to produce robots strong enough, flexible enough, dexterous enough, but also cost effective. So right now you can go and buy a Phantom MK1. We've just heard that these are being deployed on the battlefield in reconnaissance operations, but a Phantom MK1 is $100,000. That is still not within the realms of reality for most people. Most people cannot afford a $100,000 robot, especially one that's probably going to smash your dishes rather than successfully take them out of the dishwasher. But those costs are coming down and down because of China, not because of America, because of China. China has the manufacturing capability to produce robots at scale because China manufactures everything in the world for us right now. They've been doing that for the last couple of decades. They've got very good at mass producing. But the manufacturing technologies in China will drive down the cost of robots. Some very impressive things are already coming from there. That is where this stuff happens, the cleaning windows and emptying the dishwasher. At least this person says emptying the dishwasher. I often see people say, why isn't AI washing my dishes? It's like, my man, we have dishwashers for that. We have machines for that. At least he said emptying the dishwasher here. But it has delivered, according to the respondents, and these are Claude users, on productivity. So dramatically speeding up work and automating repetitive tasks, building features in hours instead of days, drafting, summarizing, data processing, and streamlining routine operations. Jobs, white-collar jobs, the double-edged sword here. I did a video on this, which I think has been resonating with people, is that if you use AI at this kind of high level and you've started to build software, you've started to build businesses using AI, you'll probably find that you are working more than you ever have before. I was working up until 10 or 11 yesterday with Codex, sorting out some analytics on my website and UTM tracking. So I am working much more than I've ever worked. I'm spending more time in front of a computer because of these technologies. The dream of AI is we're going to go down to working a few days a week. The 4-hour work week, we're going to have our weekends off, we're going to be on the beach. I am working much more than I ever have because of AI. Tell me in chat if this resonates with you. There is a window. The people who are watching this live stream, the people who are watching this on social media later, or who are reading in the newsletter about this stuff, we are right now ahead. It's like the early days of the internet, and we are the ones who have worked out how to build an e-commerce store early on. The majority of Earth, people outside of our little bubble of AI, don't know what's going on. They don't know that you can use AI to build and to create and to basically change your life if you grasp this technology and run with it now. And that means the next couple of years are going to be busy because we can build a lot of stuff. We should be building a lot of stuff to set ourselves up financially for our families, for our communities, before the job losses start to really bite. So for me, there's a certain amount of urgency, and AI gives us that. A huge amount of productivity, but it is not saving me time. I'm spending way more time working than I ever have, but I'm okay with that, personally. Barlamate is a bot. Oh, hey, Nat. Have you got a new account, Nat? Your username's changed. Here we go. Software engineer. I used AI to cut up a 173-day process down to 3 days. But the most meaningful part is the freedom to grow my career without sacrificing time with loved ones. So this is a person who is potentially doing the same amount of work as they would have done before, but they're doing it in a much shorter time. And then they're using the additional time to spend time with their family. Valid. I'm using that extra time to do more work, but it's up to you. Another productivity story, technical accessibility responses, 9%. Emphasize access rather than speed. People are using AI to break technical and accessibility barriers. I hear from a lot of people who have ADHD or are neurospicy on the spectrum in some way, telling me that Claude and ChatGPT have changed their life because they've been using it to distill information and keep on top of everything that's going on. So it's a worthwhile use of AI. AI can read past my learning disorder, which is huge. I've always wanted to code, but I could never write it correctly on my own. With AI, I finally can. This is a white-collar worker from the Ukraine saying, I am mute. And Claude and I made a text-to-speech bot together. I can communicate with friends almost in live format without taking up their time reading. This was something I dreamed about and thought was impossible. I saw somebody the other day they'd built. Oh, that was it. It was somebody who their vision was starting to fail. And they were saying, oh, Notebook LM is fantastic for me because I can take all the articles, I can take all of the resources I would normally read. But because now seeing is getting more difficult for me, I can move them into Notebook LM and have Notebook LM basically present them as a podcast to me. So again, it's accessibility. It's allowing us to be flexible with how we access information, what we do with information, and to build our own tools to allow us to participate more, which is really cool. We can do amazing things with it. Keep scrolling down. What's the next one here? What people worry about. Very valid. I will put this whole study into the newsletter. So you can go through this and find what's important to you. But I'm giving the headline figures for now. Top one is unreliability, 26.7%. So hallucinations, inaccuracies, fake citations, verification burden defeating the process. This is interesting because this one is decreasing. This tends to be a bigger problem if you are using a free version of a tool, because you tend to have a model that's a bit older. It tends to be a bigger issue in ChatGPT as well. I haven't seen a fake citation for, I would say, a year plus with Claude. I know it can 100% happen, but increasingly, the fact that these models have access to search, so they can go and verify by finding sources on the internet, the fact that they have deep research modes and they have thinking modes tends to mitigate an awful lot of the unreliability. So we've seen hallucination rates drop. They're never going to go away because the way these large language models work is by hallucinating all of the information by using probability, but sometimes we refer to the output as a hallucination because we know it does not align with the reality. But that's how everything is generated. We can now use research modes, chain of thought, so it can check on itself, citations, search, mitigate these things with unreliability. So I'm surprised to see this as high. This was a much larger factor a year or 2 years ago, especially with things like GPT 3.5. The first big public generative AI that came out was a mess, an absolute mess, because it did not have web search. But since then, I would say this is becoming less of an issue. It's decreasing. Jobs in the economy, this is something people should definitely worry about. Concern about AI causing job displacement, unemployment, economic equality, wage stagnation, or negative impacts on workers in the economy. Yep, 100%. In the third industrial revolution, horses disappeared from city streets, replaced by automobiles. Now people are afraid they are the horses for white-collar work. The argument that I see is that every technology we've had has always created new jobs. So yeah, the computer came along and everyone said the computer's going to take everyone's jobs, but no, the computer made more jobs. 100% true. The difference this time is that the jobs that AI can create, AI can also take. That's the difference. That's new. We haven't had a technology that has replicated, even approximated our cognitive ability. When robotics gets to a certain level, our physical ability as well. Previous technologies opened up new roles, new jobs. The problem this time is that the AI can take those jobs. We are not the only labor that can take those jobs. We are one of two options. The other one is AI. So it's probably going to be different this time. Autonomy and agency, concern about loss of human autonomy, massive. Cognitive atrophy, 16%. Concern about over-reliance causing skill loss, intellectual passivity, students bypassing learning. We need to redo our education system. We already had to think about this with the internet, but with generative AI, we need to work out what's going on. These are all valid reasons to worry about AI. Existential risk is relatively low. It's only 6.7%. Concern about AI becoming uncontrollable, super intelligent, misaligned. People are mainly worrying about sometimes it makes stuff up, or it's going to take my job, or it's making decisions without us. These are prosaic things, whereas the existential risk is not something the majority of people are thinking about. Probably should. That's a big one. Even if it's a lower probability, the outcome of that is we cease to exist. Only 11% of people expressed no concern over AI. They tended to see AI as a neutral tool, comparing it to electricity or the internet, or they otherwise felt confident that problems could be solved through adaptation. On average, respondents voiced 2.3 distinct concerns. So there are people like that who are accelerationists, and they think that, yeah, it's going to be messy in the meantime, but 10, 20 years from now, everything's going to be great. I think that betrays a certain amount of sociopathy, not caring about your fellow humans. I think it's a bit of an unthinking answer. I think there are people on both sides of the spectrum, people who think that AI is terrible and it shouldn't be used in anything at all. It's going to kill us. It's drinking all the water. It's going to use all the electricity. It's stealing from artists. Like anything to do with AI is terrible and evil and we need to ban it everywhere. That's a relatively unthinking position. These are people who have not necessarily gone through all of that outlook, but instead it's an emotional reaction and then rationalized on top of that. So that's one side. But then on the flip side, we have these 11% of people who also haven't thought this through. They haven't really engaged with the technology and they think this is the best thing on earth. Anyone who criticizes AI is wrong and stupid. So on both sides, you're going to have these people who are unthinking. And then in the middle, you have the rest of us who are grappling with this technology, realize there's good things about it and there are bad things about it. Like most things in this world, there are grey areas. If you think everything's black or white, you're probably not thinking about it enough. And that goes for both sides. So I will put this whole report in the newsletter so you can go through it. Now, this is very interesting. We've seen this before. So this is negative sentiment towards AI. There's a higher negative sentiment in the West. So Western Europe, Southern and Eastern Europe, Oceania and North America have a higher negative sentiment and a higher rate of concern about jobs or economy. Interestingly, East Asia is there. Normally we see Asia showing less concern. But then we have Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America and Caribbean, Southeast Asia, Middle East, South Asia, North Africa and Central Asia, who are less concerned about AI and worried less about the economy and the jobs. We've seen this data before. This is a technology that democratizes. Up until now, the means of production and most intellectual property has been concentrated in the West. It's been in North America and Western Europe and increasingly in East Asia, so Japan and China. That has meant they have reaped the economic rewards of that. AI is a lot more democratic. Yes, you need to pay for it if you want the best models, but it has reduced the distance between what these countries already own and what these regions down here want to build. If you are an economy, a nation on the up and up, AI is extremely exciting. If you are an economy or a society that already has control and risks losing that control, AI is terrifying. Potentially, it depends how this gets played out, but potentially AI could be a great leveler. Probably why it's being concentrated in the hands of so few in America. China is pushing against this narrative, but right now we have a handful of billionaires trying to keep control of this technology. Because if this becomes freely available and the cost of intelligence goes to zero, then this gap will flatten. And these regions will be just as economically productive as these regions up here in the top right. So if you are somebody who's already ahead, this is terrifying for you. You want to be conservative. You want to not change the status quo. Whereas if you're in a region who is developing and has a lot of room to catch up, then this technology is very exciting. We've seen this before, and we're seeing it again in this particular interview from Anthropic as well. Sub-Saharan Africa concern only 24% are negative, so 75% are pro, and jobs or economy, only 18% are worried about that. Whereas in North America, 35% have negative thoughts about artificial intelligence and 25% worry about jobs and economy. I could talk about this for hours. You're going to go and have a look in the newsletter. Again, that's at aiwithkyle.com. Totally free. You can sign up for the newsletter and I'll send the link for that report. Or you can go and find it if you search for 81,000 interviews. So 81K interviews from Anthropic. You'll be able to find it. I have a student with MS who can still create art by describing it to ChatGPT. She can't hold a pencil anymore. It's a gift. That's cool. So she's using her voice to create. Thank you, Sally and Ben. That's really cool. Yeah, we do need to think about other people. I see a lot of uncaring and unkindness in the world of AI. People are using it for different things. Sometimes it's different to how you and I will use it. I think that's really exciting that we're all using it for such different things. And we don't necessarily think about what other people are using it for. So, the big thing I want to talk about today is Dispatch. So, this is in Claude Cowork. There's a few levels here. So Claude, let's start from the beginning. Claude is the model by Anthropic, and Claude is primarily a chatbot. But Claude also has something called Claude Cowork and Claude Code. They all begin with C's, which is very annoying. So we have Claude Chat, which is a chatbot, just like ChatGPT basically, but very smart. It's my model of choice. We have Claude Cowork, which is a tool that sits on your desktop. It can access your files and it can do work for you. Claude that does things, it's for doing. And then we have Claude Code, which is the Claude for building. It's for building software. So there's these three elements in this ecosystem, and they're doing it piecemeal, but I'm pretty sure they are pulling them all together and making something that is basically OpenClaw. So remember back in December, January, the world went mad for OpenClaw. First ClaudeBot, then it got renamed to OpenClaw. ClaudeBot as in C-L-A-W-D, not Claude as in C-L-A-U-D. I told you this gets confusing. Claude from Anthropic are piecing together all of the things that made OpenClaw special. I saw it described thusly. This is OpenClaw for grown-ups. It can do 90% of what OpenClaw does in a 90% more secure way. Very impressed so far. The newest addition to this is something called Dispatch. Basically, you leave your computer on. So it could be a laptop, it could be a Mac Mini, it could be a computer. It doesn't really matter, but it's sitting at home and it's constantly on. But you can now talk to that computer through your telephone. So when I'm out and about, I can send messages. I'll show you what it looks like because I was playing around with it this morning. I can use this mode called Dispatch. It's going to be quite hard to show you, but this mode called Dispatch here, which allows me to send messages from my telephone back to my computer. Now that doesn't sound that impressive, but what this means is we have an always on persistent brain basically in Cowork. So I have my Cowork connected up to a set of folders, a repo, where I have all of my work goes. When I create a newsletter, draft for example, it goes into that repo. When I create social media scripts, that all goes into that repo. It knows everything about my business. It has connections to all my websites. Everything is in this set of folders on my computer. That is always on and always accessible. Now I can talk to this through the telephone. I can also talk to it through my laptop. So we're starting to centralize and have this persistent source of truth. This was one thing that was really cool about OpenClaw, is that it was always on and it could work for you while you were sleeping. Same here with Claude Cowork. You can set up scheduled tasks in Claude Cowork, and now we can just chat to it via the application. So we're moving towards what got everyone excited about OpenClaw, but we're doing it in a more secure system. Now, what that means is we also have less power. You're doing it inside of the Claude ecosystem, so it limits what you can connect it to. You can still connect it to an awful lot of things, but with OpenClaw, you could really go buck wild. That's the trade-off here, though. You lose a little bit of control, but you get more security. Most people, that security is going to be more important. I'm sure you heard the OpenClaw horror stories of it deleting people's inboxes or wiping their hard drives. That should be less. I'm not going to say it won't happen, but it should be less frequent when you're using the Claude ecosystem. When OpenClaw came out, I used it. I still use it. It's a fantastic tool. But I said to a lot of my viewers, a lot of the people who read the newsletter, if you don't feel technically comfortable setting this up, if all of this is a bit over your head, you can leave this one out. You can sit this one out for now, which is one of the very few technologies I've actually said that about. Excuse me, my coworker is trying to run tasks. I'm going to actually close that. If you're seeing this pop up on my screen, that is my Claude Cowork trying to show itself off. It was about to run some scheduled tasks and do some tasks for me, but I'm doing a live stream, so I've closed it down. Oh yeah, because it was 11:05. So it was going to go off and look at some comments on my TikTok and Instagram and reply with links to them for me without me having to do it. So what we've got now is this increasingly accessible version of OpenClaw. OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, they acqui-hired the creator of OpenClaw, Peter Steinberger. And so they are presumably working on their own version of OpenClaw, but Anthropic have beat them to the punch. Anthropic have released, what have they got? They put persistent memory into Claude, which they didn't have before. They added remote control. They launched Cowork. Cowork came after OpenClaw. Now they have Dispatch. So they're starting to piece together the elements of this ecosystem to make up something approximating OpenClaw. I'm sure there'll be people watching this later. No, it can't do this. It can't do that. That's because they're adding these things bit by bit. They've been working on this for 2 months and they're releasing 2 or 3 new features every single week. So whatever, if you're going to tell me, oh, it doesn't have a soul or it doesn't have a heartbeat, they'll probably add those things. Maybe they haven't got there yet, but I'm sure they are just working through a hit list of OpenClaw's features and deploying them in their ecosystem. So very cool. And another reason to use Claude. For the last couple of weeks, I've been going on and on about Claude, and I apologize for that, but it is very good. I did see a question. This is a more technical question. Somebody asks, what's the difference between this and remote control? So remote control you can use to remotely connect to your Claude code. And somebody said, what's the difference between Dispatch and this? And the answer to which from Felix was, we don't really know. It's a bit confusing, we understand that. But I would say that remote control is incredibly buggy and it breaks all of the time. So Dispatch seems, at least from first testing, to be a bit more coherent. What I imagine we're going to see increasingly is the merging of Claude Cowork and Claude Code. They're just going to pull them together. They will just become one product with different feature sets. If you have Claude, make sure you check out Dispatch. I'm not sure what it's on. I think it's only on the max plan for now, but it will be rolling out to pro plans very shortly. Oh, here we go. This might be a dumb question, but why use this instead of remote control? So what's the difference between Dispatch and remote control? And Felix says, not dumb at all. We have some things to make remote control smoother, but this is just using the same underlying primitives as Code's remote control. So it's very similar, but one works for Cowork, one works for remote control for Claude Code. As a non-technical person using Code a lot, I struggle to set up remote control most times. This looks easy. Yeah, I agree. Remote control is a bit of a buggy mess, so I haven't been using it because it went wrong more often than not. I wasn't impressed. Do you think cybersecurity is future-proof, as in for a job? I don't think any job is fully future-proof right now, unfortunately. What role would you advise to get into? So I don't know enough about cybersecurity to be able to comment, but check out Jade. She's on Instagram. I can't find her. There's a content creator called Jade who talks about cybersecurity and knows an awful lot more about the topic than I do. I can't find her. But I don't think any job is really future-proof. So that's why I recommend people start something on their own. You keep your job, you keep that income coming in for as long as possible, but at the same time you work out your own business or something that's going to keep food on your table. And that does not need to be a multi-million-dollar business. I think what's really exciting about AI now is that we can now build small businesses that can bring in a couple of $100,000 a year, a couple of million relatively easily compared to before. I think there's going to be a huge boom in these smaller micro businesses run by one or two people able to bring in enough money to live a very good life rather than having to scale up, have a team of 50, 100, 200, 500, 1,000. But at the end of the day, you'd still only be collecting the same amount of money yourself. So I think the days of big bloated SaaS companies, big bloated companies is done. But if you're a solopreneur or you're working in a small team, you will be able to carve out a space for yourself, earn a good living. You'll be able to earn good money. And I think that's the safest way to go right now, is to carve something else out. Hopefully have a couple of those things on the go, because we don't know what AI is going to eat. We don't know what AI is going to demolish. So we need to diversify. And just having one job, it's risky, because if your company doesn't embrace AI, they're going to get eaten by new companies and competitors that use AI. Or maybe your company does, but your industry as a whole just gets chomped by artificial intelligence. So we can look at Karpathy's job, find his GitHub. Now, this is not definitive, but I think it was interesting. Has he taken it down again? He hasn't taken it down again, has he? No, good. He put it back up. He took it down briefly, and then people were like, why did you take it down? And he put it back up again. So let's put it up. Karpathy.ai/jobs. This is a visualizer of the 342 occupations in the US. And it has a exposure level for each of these jobs. This is not necessarily the truth. This is not necessarily what's going to happen, but I think it's a useful analysis. So you can go through and you can try and find your job and work out how exposed it is to AI. Cybersecurity, you mentioned. You can't search this. I actually built a version that you can search. Let me see if I can remember I built a version which is searchable, so I can look for cybersecurity. It's not there. Information security analysis is probably that. Information security analysis is 8 out of 10 exposure. According to this analysis, that does not necessarily mean that's the case. So let's see if we can find it here. No. And yeah, annoyingly, his one's not searchable because it'd be really useful. But presumably, there it is. So I had a look at Dispatch. I did want to talk about this because I've been talking about moving from ChatGPT over to Claude, or just trying out Claude. Claude is fantastic. A lot of people are moving over to Claude. And they're hitting the problem that us Claude users have had for years, which is usage. If you use Claude all day, you're going to run into usage limits, especially if you're on the $20 a month plan and you use Opus. You'll probably have a couple of turns, a few exchanges with Opus, and then it will say, okay, you run out, you need to come back in a couple of hours. Very frustrating if you're trying to build or run a business. So I've seen a lot of messages like this. This is Dear Anthropic, the ChatGPT refugees are here, and here's why they'll leave again. So I came to Claude from ChatGPT, like a lot of you probably did, because I created a life there, I'm sure. Deep conversations, real workflows for work, genuine connections with the product. When OpenAI started treating that kind of engagement as a problem to be trained out, I left. So it moved over to Anthropic. Here's what Anthropic's product team needs to hear. Most of us don't fully understand tokens yet. Those who were with ChatGPT have zero knowledge about tokens usage. So right now we're running on promotional limits and it feels generous. The moment that doubles back to the standard pro limits, a significant chunk of these new users, including me, especially the conversational power users, not just coders, going to hit a wall they didn't see coming, running out of credits and being told you can't use Claude anymore. He's saying pro at $20 isn't built for people who use Claude. Claude Max at $100 is a real solution, but it's a huge difference. From 20 to 100 is a huge amount. And he's saying, I'm not going to spend $100 a month. I can spend $20 a month, but I want more usage. Now, I see this a lot. People who are paying for AI, they're paying $20 a month. They expect to be able to use it fairly unlimited. I get that. That's what they've been trained for on ChatGPT. The thing is, Claude don't want those users. Claude are not building for that user. Claude and Anthropic don't have you as their ideal customer. The customer for Anthropic is the API. So this is the revenues from the different companies, OpenAI and Anthropic. You'll see that Anthropic's consumer subscriptions is tiny. It's under $1 billion compared to $5.5 billion from OpenAI, whereas their API revenue beats OpenAI's. And this is becoming an issue for OpenAI actually eyeing this market because this is much more sustainable revenue. Basically, Anthropic don't care about people who are on the free plan and people who are on the $20 a month plan. They don't want you as a customer because you're actually costing them more than they make from you. So I see all these people who are putting these pleas out saying, we're going to leave Anthropic. If you don't give us something that is better for the consumer level, then we're off and good riddance to you. They don't want you as an individual consumer. You cost Anthropic money. They want people on the $100 a month or the $200 a month plan, or ideally on the API, because that's where they make their money. Even on the $100 and $200 a month plan, they're subsidizing those costs. You get a lot more usage for your money. So you pay $100, but you're actually getting several $100s worth of API usage. This is where they want people. I just wanted to make this clear to the people who are feeling a bit hard done by and wondering why Anthropic don't seem to care about you as an individual. This is why. It is not part of their business plan. Unfortunately, OpenAI are seeing this kind of performance. They're seeing this steady, regular income coming from business use, from enterprise, from B2B, and they're thinking we need to get in on that. OpenAI are shifting in that direction. Right now, they're hemorrhaging money because they have gone down the consumer route, B2C, which means they have 900 million users. Most of those people are not paying. So their server costs are through the roof. The electricity costs are through the roof, but those people aren't paying money. That is why they're adding adverts, so they can recoup some of that. But they're eyeing this market, the API revenue market and the enterprise market, because that is regular, stable revenue, and that's what you can build a business on. So we had news from Fiji Simo, who is head of product, the ChatGPT product itself, told staff last week that the company could not afford to be distracted by side quests as Anthropic gains steam in the enterprise and coding markets. Company execs are actively looking at areas to deprioritize. So OpenAI do a lot of things not very well. If you open up the ChatGPT app, you can make videos, you can make images. Are they good videos? No. Are the image generator good? No. It's not as good as Nanobanon. It's not as good as Grok. They have the voice mode. They have the ability to build micro apps. They have an app store, which nobody uses or cares about. They have the custom GPT. They have a lot of things that they have built and just thrown out into this app. Let's look at them. So there are so many, I forget them all. We've got Pulse. I forgot about Pulse. Most of them are here. They have agent mode, which isn't very good. They have Canvas, but why do you have Canvas when you've got Codex? They have quizzes. Where's the App Store? Has the App Store gone? They've got rid of the App Store, or at least I can't see it. Shopping research. They used to have their weird little App Store in here in the more, so they already deprioritized it. This is one where you could get the app for booking.com or like for ordering food. It's a very weird thing. They seem to have removed that. I'm not seeing it at all. So they've thrown a lot of shit at the wall and not much of it is stuck. Whereas what Anthropic have done is they're focused on coding and they're focused on text. That's it. Can't generate images, can't make videos using Claude. They just added a voice mode very recently. It's rubbish. They haven't put much effort into it. They're just focused on where the money is, which is in coding and business processes. And that's why they're doing very well in this area. Why this is important is if OpenAI, creators of ChatGPT, do shift in that direction, then OpenAI's ChatGPT will become even less consumer friendly. They'll add adverts into the free plans. We know they're doing that already. They're also adding them into the Go plan, and they will probably start to restrict usage as well in the same way that Anthropic have. Because right now, consumers, individuals, are just a cost. Expect it to get a little rougher out there. And for letters like this, the please treat us better are going to become more frequent, I imagine, from both Anthropic and OpenAI. I'm going to finish up for today. Thank you for being with me. If you are not part of the newsletter, make sure you join up. It's at aiwithkyle.com. There's also free courses you can get alongside. There's a 10-week course about how to start a business. These are all free. A short course on how to start giving workshops to businesses, which is a really good way to make money right now. I make about $2,000 an hour doing that personally. And there's a catalogue of playbooks, over 100 different playbooks in here, all written by me over the last couple of years, as well as stuff that you'll get if you subscribe for free. You'll also be put into the community where we're chatting about AI, and you'll get the newsletter every single day. That has a summary of what's been discussed on the live stream, as well as links to any resources. For example, I'll link in this report from Anthropic so you can go through it in your own time and find the stuff that's important, because it's a really cool report, but it does take some time. And for everybody, it's different things will be interesting. So I will make sure to link that into you. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you